So today I'm going to be talking about how to choose the right pattern for you. My mother really wanted me to teach her how to use patterns, and as I can't be with her right now, I thought this would be the easiest way, and I'm going to break it up into a couple of sections. So the first thing you need to find the correct pattern for you are your measurements. I like to use a cloth measuring tape. It's got centimeters on one side, inches on the other. It's easier if you have someone else to help you so that you're not straining to look down to get the right measurement. The other thing you can do is take like a piece of yarn, wrap that around, mark it off, like knot it where it meets, and then you can lay that out flat and measure it with a ruler if you don't have a cloth measuring tape. I like to get your bust, waist, and hips. It can also be helpful to have your inseam, which is the length from the inside at the top of your thigh all the way down to your ankle. Your torso length from the base of your neck to around your hip area. Those are good for if you're going to be altering patterns or if you want to make pants that are more tailored. So once you have these measurements, then you have to find some patterns. There are a couple places to go. Obviously, online is an option. There's great patterns online for really specific things. You know, if you're, say, a cosplayer like I am and you're looking for a shirt and you know that somebody has made a pattern for that specific character shirt and you don't want to bother trying to alter a store pattern, you can search that up, pay them for their work, print it out, follow along. So that's a really good option. There are also great resources for historical patterns online. I've definitely used those for Merida and for Eleanor that talk about, you know, how things were patterned, how to find your measurements, how to fit it to you. Those are great. So that's most of what you're going to find online. Also really basic patterns like hats and pajama pants. You can probably find those online. Vintage is also a great way to get a hold of patterns, such as in secondhand stores. Give me one second, I actually have some. This was a vintage pattern, is a vintage pattern that I got for, as you can see, 99 cents out of a bin at the Arc where I live. And that's a really great way to get your hands on really cheap patterns, and especially to start just trying things out. The downside of that is it's going to be a little harder to find what you're looking for. They're not going to have modern shapes, and getting things in the right size is going to be a lot more difficult, especially because measurements for standard sizes have changed over time, and I'll touch on that more in a moment. And then the most common way to get patterns is commercial patterns, and that's things like this and like this one. It's just they're modern now. You just go to your local sewing supply shop. There'll be lots of options. You can always ask for help there. The people know what they're doing. Usually there are pattern books as well, and I have some pictures of those that should pop up on screen now. So in the pattern books, you can, for example, just be like, oh, I like simplicity patterns. Sit down, say, I need a shirt, flip to the shirt section. Sometimes they'll have a plus size section. Sometimes they'll even have costume sections. So that's a really great way to find exactly what you're looking for. They'll come in multiple sizes. Again, I'll talk about that in a moment. And then the last way really to get patterns is to do it yourself. You will get exactly what you want, but it can be harder. You can do drapery, you can do flat patterning. I tend to go the route of taping myself up, tracing it on my body, and then cutting that out and altering from there. I'm not actually going to cover that in this series. If there's a lot of interest in that, I can go over it, but I know there are really great other tutorials for that out there. So, let's say you've gone the commercial selection route. Let's go over finding the right one. Like I said, pattern books. Asks for help. can also check the wall of easy patterns. Sometimes that'll be an actual wall, sometimes it'll be display cases, but these are cheaper patterns that come in just a few styles, few sizes. Like you get one pattern ranging from children's to adult extra, extra large. They're pretty great for starting out, and that's actually what I started with. The first pattern I ever bought was a vest pattern, and I don't know why I didn't get any of these out before I started making this series. This right here was my first pattern that I ever bought. Green Pepper is one of those brands that does really simple designs. As you can see, it's versatile, it's a vest, it's a jacket, it's got a hood or not. You can absolutely mix and match these vests with a hood. It works great. It's got pockets, it's got a side seam, a yoke seam, a collar seam, so those are really good for learning on. Their side seam unfortunately is up a little high, which I didn't figure out until after I bought the pattern. A typical side seam is going to cut right down here, but it makes the pockets easier to access. That's why they designed it this way. It's just not the easiest base block pattern, this one specifically, but looking for something like this is great for starting your first shirt, that sort of stuff. And as you can see, they do have the same sort of measurements, chest, waist, hip, and they go from extra small to extra large, and that's all included in this one same pattern. Once you've found the pattern in the book or on the wall that you like, then you have to find your size. This is where those measurements come in. So, on the back of the pattern, there will be a display with a bunch of sizes. And you start from the top down, so it will say, for example, about a 42 in vest, and I'm about a 32 in waist. You want to follow that 42 line. So if, say, you were sitting on this smaller size and you weren't sure whether you needed, you know, a size 14 if you were at like a 36, and that's a 14 there, but you were at, say, maybe in the hips you were at 34, or the other way around, that sort of thing, you need a 12. Get the one with 14, because you can always make it smaller. And then you have to check the front of the package, and that's why I have two of these, because I didn't check, and I had to go back and get the correct size. But for example, one of them will say sizes, 14 through 22, and the other one will say size 6 through 14. So while all of those measurements are on the back and it is available in all those measurements, it's not available in all those measurements in one pattern. And that's for ease of cutting out, which you'll see later. Do not be discouraged by these pattern sizes, because yeah, it says I'm a size 20 shirt, and I know that I'm not a size 20 in US commercial sizing, but a lot of these, again, are based on vintage measurements, like I said here, that they haven't changed. And so, the woman's size 16 looks different now than it did 20, 30 years ago. Just go off your measurement. Don't let it make you feel down that maybe you're an extra large in this pattern or an extra small in that pattern. It doesn't matter. And by the time you're done sewing it up, it's gonna look better than anything else you've ever worn on your body, because it'll be tailored to you. You're not gonna have the awkward, oh, I have to buy 2 sizes up to fit my shoulders, but now it doesn't fit my waist, because you can fix that making your own clothes. And that's pretty much how to find the right pattern. Feel free to drop any questions in the comments, and I'll see you guys hopefully next week, if I actually keep up with my filming schedule, where we'll talk about the different markings that are on the pattern, how to read those, and how to cut it out. Bye-bye!